You already hit it? Woo! Hey! Man. I see you passing feet. That's a joint, ain't it? That's a joint. I love that boy. I love that, man. Gotta clean it up, bro. Boy, you a nut job, man.
I got you.
Hey, man. Oh my gosh,
Your
man.
mic is live. Your mic is live.
So don't do. So don't do like
Oh, your mic is live, bro.
Don't do like Jesse Jackson.
No, sir.
This is what I'm gonna do to Obama.
Your mic
When I
is
see
live.
him, I'm gonna.
Your mic is live, brother.
Oh, the microphone.
56 countries strong.
Hey, man.
56.
Yeah. Listening to him right now. Come on,
Hey.
come on, what are you gonna do to Obama?
When I see Obama, this. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening. This is your host, Joaquin Thompson Sr. with the Daily Bread Radio Show, coming to you live from.
Come on.
Oh goodness. we gonna say one week we're gonna be able to say Atlanta, but we coming live to you from Snellville.
Big time.
Trying to get the mayor of Snellville to come on and join us, but I don't know what's taking you so long. I mean, we get guests coming through all the time, man. What's taking you so long?
See how you gonna do
You
it.
scared of the mayor?
See how you-
Are you scared of the mayor?
What had happened was,
If you scared of the man, say you scared, bro. Then we can move on. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no
spoke to that
problem with
man.
that, man. There's no problem with that.
But today we got somebody better than the mayor.
Oh man, 10 times better than the mayor.
Man, the mayor.
Man, forget the mayor.
That's a step down from
The
what we got
mayor?
today.
Who is that?
Come on, man.
What is
Play with
that?
me.
What is the mayor?
Exactly.
What
Come
is the
on,
mayor, man? What is the mayor? But good evening, everyone. My name is Joaquin Thompson Sr., the host of the Daily Bread Radio Show. And for those of you that are joining for the first time, this is a show about personal finance from a spiritual perspective. We don't do religion. We talk about that all the time, but if this is your first time, we don't do religion because we believe that there's only one true God. So when you get into religion, you get into Buddha and Judaism and Christianity, Muslims, fruit of Islam. We don't do all that. We just say, hey, we know somebody's at the top, that's God. And all those religions come up to one point, that's God. So we leave it right there. So we don't get into religion, but we try to make sure that we're doing personal finance from a spiritual standpoint, because everything that we do, everything that you do, everywhere that you go, every person you know is tied to personal finance. It's tied to personal finance. So even if you're at home right now, if you're in the listening audience, if you're on Facebook Live or dkmradio.com, if you look around your house, if you look around your room, or if you think about something like the car that you drive and the food in your refrigerator, everything is tied to personal finance. Where you live, where you don't live, where you go, where you want to go, where you been, where you want to be going. All of that's tied to personal finance. Your dish, the food that you eat,
Yes.
the food that you don't eat. Like I never had caviar. So
You wish food.
which food?
Yeah. You wish you had some food.
So I mean, everything is tied to personal finance. So my mission, goal in life is just to teach my listening audience the basics of personal finance. We're not gonna go into anything that's super duper high level. We're not gonna go into derivatives and polynomials and all. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna do the basics of personal. This is just punt, pass, and kick. That's all this is. Now, whatever you do with it, if you want to take that and take it to another level, like, okay, I'm gonna do this with it, I'm gonna do that. That's on you. But our goal and mission on this show is to do three things: educate, motivate, and elevate. Educate, motivate, and elevate. Educate, motivate, and elevate. So today, and every week we try to other thing that we try to do is we want to make sure that as we're working through and bringing you different content, that we want to make sure that everything that we bring you is fresh. It's not something that's packaged. It's not something that, you know, you're going to like, oh, I could have got that anywhere. Oh, I've seen that before somewhere else. No, we want to bring you something that's fresh and new and something that you can use all the time. So every week that I come on, I have different topics, different agendas. We talk about what's going on in the world and make sure that what we're sharing with the listening audience is relevant, right? Because nobody will listen to something that's irrelevant, right? It's like, oh, I ain't need to tune into that. I could have got that anywhere. But I guarantee you, when you listen to the Daily Bread Radio Show, even if you can't catch the whole show, if you listen for just a little while, 3 things are gonna happen. You're gonna get educated, you're gonna be motivated, and then you're gonna elevate. Because those 3 things have to happen before you can go into different realms, or what I call different frequencies.
Yes.
In life, you can't stay on the same frequency in that comfort zone. You gotta get out that comfort zone, shake some things up, shake some people up, do some things, so that way you can get to where you're going and do some of the things that you're doing. We're super excited today. We got a special guest in the studio. We're gonna bring her on shortly. We have Miss Linda, Brooks Horton, and she's the founder of the nonprofit Trinity Awards, and she has her super producer. Like I got Raheem. Raheem is my super producer.
Come on.
You'll never see him, but you'll never see my producer, but he's a super producer, Raheem. And then Linda has her super producer with her, which is Sandy Pruitt.
Yes.
Now, Sandy Pruitt is the connector of connectors. She is the conduit of the conduitist,
That's a word.
right?
That's a word.
That's a word?
That's a word.
Conduitist.
Yeah.
Like Humbolea.
Humble.
Now, we all from Humbolea. And for those of you all who don't know what Humbolea is where all the humble people reside
The
at.
humblest.
So you don't have to be puffed up,
The humblest.
right?
The humblest gotta live there. Gotta be the humblest.
Man, you doing too much talking. And you got on that Pittsburgh watch, man. I ain't gonna digress, but them Jaguars, we going to the Super Bowl, and we go. I ain't even gonna start that. Let me focus. But yeah, we got Linda Brooks Horton in the studio, and we're gonna bring on, and she's gonna talk about a super big event that's gonna be taking place next month, August the 26th. And just so happened, I was lucky enough to be, I guess, nominated. Somebody put my name in the hat. I don't know what happened, but I was blessed. Let's put it that way. I was blessed and chosen, and I'm going to be one of the presenters at the Trinity, the nonprofit Trinity Awards next month. So I'm getting super excited about that. I'm starting to, study my lines. So I got to be able to say, you got to pause and say, the winner is.
Well, that takes some work.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm practicing now.
God almighty.
You can't just say that any kind of way. You
No.
can't just say, the winner is. You gotta be like,
Say it with your chest.
And he said it.
you gotta say,
Huh?
you gotta say it like
He
this.
said it
You gotta have
He
your
said it
chest
wrong.
up.
He said it. And.
See? You got to say, and the winner is.
Hey, come on now. I mean, you got it.
Yeah, I think that's, I go into my Barry White. And the winner is.
Don't you do that.
I can do it. I can always do that one. I'd be like, they gotta.
Where they get that one from?
Hey man, I always do that. Hey, when you give me a microphone, I don't care where I'm at. Whenever you give me a microphone, man, it's like I get excited. So I'm gonna practice calming down. I'm gonna be on point, and gotta get me a tuxedo. So you the super producer, so you need to be working on that.
I got it.
Cause I'm gonna be representing DKM Radio, Daily Bread Radio. I gotta look the part. So
I believe you got a tuxedo already, though.
no, I believe the show is gonna get me a tuxedo.
Okay.
That's what was in my contract, the show. So if the show don't want me to represent you when I go out
Basically.
in the world,
What happened to the tuxedo you had, though? That little
there
midsection.
you go.
That little midsection.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Now, I've been working out,
Oh, come on.
bruh. I've been running, man. Andrew, you see what I've been drinking? Water.
Run to the refrigerator.
Running to the refrigerator.
Oh, okay.
Man, I look better than you.
When we come up there, do
No, don't show them. We don't want the system to go down. You stay over there, man. Stay in your lane. But Yeah, we excited. We're gonna have Linda come on shortly, but before she comes on, I always have the book of the week.
Okay.
And just on a serious note, book of the week this week
Okay.
is something that I think everybody needs to. If you don't have a copy, you need to go get a copy. You need to go get a copy of this book because, like we talk about on Daily Bread Radio Show, we're gonna bring you some content that's real. This is a real book. Every week for the last 62 weeks, I've always brought at least one book. Some weeks I brought two. A few weeks ago, I think I brought like 5 books in one episode. But the thing about reading is it's going to give you the opportunity to expand your mind and also bring some light to some things that you may not be well versed in. Things that you may have heard from other people, which is like more like hearsay. Like if you haven't traveled somewhere and somebody tells you like, man, don't go down there. Like, why? I went down there, but then you ask them, have you been there before? No, I ain't been. I heard that it was bad down there. Like, so you need to read, like we always talked about, people that are, very successful, not just financially, spiritually, mentally, they read a lot. Because one of my favorite phrases are quotes, I should say, from Benjamin Franklin, and I've used this all throughout the Daily Bread Radio Show, which is what? No man or woman will live long enough to learn everything they need to know to be successful. So you have to learn from other people. So you don't have to be in a fight. You can see somebody get beat, and it could have started with something that they said, and that might be your cue to like, okay, maybe I don't need to say that to this person, right? Maybe I need to just be cool, right? So you don't have to be in it to learn from it. And as you see people doing successful things in life, you need to be able to read about it, get exposed to it, and then that way it'll bring some enlightenment to the way that you do things. And the book of the week this week, because I've been thinking about it for over a week, was going through my personal library and ran across this book and was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But a lot of people don't have this book, but the book of the week this week is The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave. The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave. Now, this book is only 30 pages. It's called a book. It's a 30-page book, right? And the title of the book is The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave. Now, the thing that makes this book so impactful is that I don't know if it's true or not true. It could be fable, but I've heard that this slave owner by the name of Willie Lynch had this system or process that he had for making slaves. And he used a process that was similar to breaking different animals, like a horse, right? A wild horse. And he had 2 different systems, one for the male and one for the female. Now in this book, when he first encountered and he was doing this in the West Indies, right? So he had slaves in the West Indies, and he came up to the South. He was on the banks, the way the story goes, he was on the banks of the James River, and he was giving this speech to the slave owners from the South and was telling them, you all are just doing this thing backwards. Like, you got slaves that are uncontrollable, you killing them, you shooting them, and that's messing your economics up. He said, what you need to do is train them in a way. And if you use my system, one of the parts that was very deep in this book is he said, if you use my system, I guarantee that it will be impactful for at least 300 years. And he was saying this in 1712. 1712 was before the Declaration of Independence. 1712, I didn't say 1812, 1712. So you think about 300 years from then is when? 2012, right? And the things that he talks about that are the foundation of this system have to do with pitting the woman against the man, the older slave against the younger slave, the light-skinned slave against the dark-skinned slave, the slave that works in the field and the slave that works in the house. All of he said, you use differences because differences will breed envy, jealousy, and contempt in the slave. And once you have that, the slave will be at odds against each other, and they will tend to keep each other from ascending. They won't come together in a unified manner. And he said that would help you to keep you from killing them, which will make it more profitable for you from an economic standpoint. Now you think about that, you're like, what does that have to do? It's 2018. But if you think about it, think about all the stuff that we do in 2018. Perfect example. I do the Daily Bread radio show. It's some other people. I got a close friend of mine that he's been on this show. He's a minister. And he has a show on personal finance too. So people are like, why would you have him come on your show? And why would you? I'm like, it's 50 million African Americans in the U.S. and 300 million people in the U.S. Do you think me having him on my show is going to have an impact on 50 million African Americans? I was like, he trying to get his 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000, 20,000. I'm trying to get the same thing. Well, if we collaborate, then what we're going to do is then we can cross-pollinate. I can find out, his audience can find out what I'm doing, and vice versa. Now we got twice as many people tuned in because we say this is for the people, right? It ain't for us. It ain't, for us to buy Bentley and Rolls Royce and all that. I mean, that'll come in time, but it's a time and a place for everything. And that's what he's talking about in this book, is like being able to get away from that. Just put all of our differences aside and be able to work on one accord, because once you do that, then the sky's the limit. And that's why on the Daily Bread radio show, we affectionately call people to listen to the show breadheads, because as a breadhead, you know that it is possible for us as a people and a community to work together. It is possible. It is possible. So when people are running around like, we'll never get together, yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Because the only thing it takes is, it takes one person with one voice to have the courage to put it out there and say, yes, we will. It might take some time. May not be, I might be a lot older. But it can happen if we start to sow those seeds and saying that is what we want to happen. Now, if that's what you want to happen and you taking action for that to happen, that's one thing. But if you, in your heart of hearts, really don't want that to happen, then that's a show for another day. But definitely pick up this book. It's profound. 30 pages. All of you all super educated, breadheads. You can read this in no time. 30 pages in no time. I mean, but the information that you're going to read in this letter from this slave owner is going to, if nothing else, is going to make you think. It's going to provoke your mind to think. It's going to expand your mind to open up, so that way when people are trying to put all these different things in place and saying, well, we're not going to discriminate against you. We're just saying you need a license to be into this, whatever this area is, right? So we're not discriminating. You just need a license. Then you say, oh, okay, I'm going to take the test. But the test is so hard, right? But they make the test that way because what? I'm not discriminating against you. I'm just trying to create a barrier to entry. It's called a barrier to entry. We've talked about that before in business. If you have a real strong barrier to entry, you can keep the competition out. Sometimes it's a license, sometimes it's money. We're not discriminating. We're just saying in order for you to be a qualified investor, you need to have $250,000 in liquid capital available that has been verified by banknote. So at that point, you're like, well, shoot, my little, I'm down here with my, I'm a thousandaire, I'm a mid-thousandaire, how am I? I don't have 250. So then they said, well, we're not discriminating. We're just saying that's what you need in order to get into this arena. And that's the way the game goes. So just something to think about. Just something to really, really think about. And that's one of those things that we're trying to do on the Daily Bread radio show is provide resources so our listeners could have an option. And it's being done with integrity. You don't have to worry about, you walking in and somebody knocking your head off, you trying to get something done, or you trying to, get your credit stronger, or do different things. And, if you go through the Daily Bread radio show, it's going to be done right. It's going to be done with integrity. And I'm going to share another quick antidote with you all, just about what we're doing. And every week, I always look for confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. Had a friend of mine, I told him, I said, hey, I can help you improve your credit. He said, no, I've been working it out. And he said, I had some trade lines added to my credit report. I said, some what? I said, you did what? He said, yeah, I had some trade lines added because what I want to do is get my credit score up, apply for some things, and then once I apply for them, then, you know, them trade lines, they're going to fall off in 60 days. I said, man, listen, let me explain something to you. On the top, on the very top of that mortgage application, it says, if you do anything outside the guidelines of what's been specified by law, it's a federal, it's an FBI symbol on the top of the mortgage document. And they say in so many words, if you think about in any type of way putting anything that's not true in this document, we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. So I told him, I said, well, you know what, man, I get it, but why don't you do this? Why don't you step back and take some time and just get your credit right? Why don't you do that? Because if they catch, I said, if you have them trade lines on your credit report and you go, and you say you're working with a mortgage company, if they go in and pull your credit and you got them 2 trade lines on there and they get the underwriting, and that underwriter say, well, who is J&B? Because I pulled and I ain't see J&B two months ago. So who is J&B, and can you please provide an explanation? And you go writing something, you going deeper. You going deeper. So I told him, I said, man, why don't me and you just get together, take some time, and get it done right? Because what you're doing right now is you putting you and your family at risk. Because these people, and that's federal time. Who want to be doing federal time? Who want to be? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine can you imagine your first day walking on the yard and saying, hey man, what you in here for? And you tell them, man, you say, man, I have and they're gonna say, what you in here for? And you gonna say, I was trying to get my credit report. I was trying to get my credit score up, but I added some trade lines. Trade lines? What's that? What's a trade line? I added some false accounts to my credit report, and it didn't work out. So I got 10 years. 10 years? Man, do you want a house that bad? Nah. So I told him, I was like, hey man, back up. We can work together. It's gonna take some time. And the lesson in that is this: it's better to take time to do things than to have or be facing time, looking at some time, because you'll never have peace when you do things like that. You'll never have peace. So I told him, I said, he asked me what I thought. I said, I think, first of all, I wouldn't submit anything to that mortgage company. I would wait the 60 days till that stuff drop off, and then I'd get back in the game. But as long as that stuff on there, I wouldn't let nobody pull my credit, because only thing that is evidence. That's evidence in the court of law. So you want to be careful when you start dealing with these different laws, especially when you don't understand what you're getting into. So that's my story for today. And so now, why don't you put the phone number in the chat? 678. If you want to call into the show, please call into the show, because my producer is just really like, I know the Steelers that went, they in camp. He's feeling some type. We got this little Steeler watch on. You remember the last time you wore them Steeler pajamas up? You had that jacket on and them Steeler pajamas. The Jaguars ran through them jokers like a runaway stampede. But I ain't gonna talk about that. But the call-in number, and please, give us a call. Like I said, we have a fantastic show. We got a great guest. Linda Brooks Fortin is going to be coming up next. And give us a call, 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. So next we're going to bring up this young lady. She's doing some phenomenal work in the community, doing things just like what we talk about on the Daily Bread Radio Show. It ain't about her. It's about the people that she aspires to help. She aspires to help the people that need to be helped. The people that are in need, the people that are in poverty-stricken areas, the people that are in areas that need additional assistance. And she's doing this out of the kindness of her heart, in addition to everything else that she's doing. She's the chairwoman and executive director of the nonprofit Trinity Awards. And she's going to come on to the show today and tell us all about the Trinity Awards, how it got started, what was the idea, how did it, where's it going? From my understanding and doing my research, the first show was created back in 2012. And since then, it's been an annual event. And like I said, I'll be a presenter at this year's award. So I'm extremely excited about that. So if you hear me, if you run into me in the street and you ask me a question and I say, and the winner is, just know that that's what I'm doing. So you want to put your hands together, and we're going to bring Linda Brooks Horton to the show. Come on up. It's game time. Come on, super producer Sandy. Yeah, you want to get the other chair? Okay. I should do. Hold on. So we got. What other mic?
It's up on the table there. Yeah, let me see the. Slide the mic down.
You don't have to grab it, man.
I got it. Slide it. Keep them. Joaquin, keep them going for me.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And you can turn, you have to turn the screen too, but, yeah, we super duper excited to, have these two young ladies to come and join us. Got your heads, there's some headphones here. You got the other headset? What you gonna do? I'll take mine off. How about
No.
that?
You know, give her that one. And there's another one right here.
There you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
See, I thought we was playing on here. We ain't playing. Look at
Everybody mic is on, we good to go.
that. Okay, everybody mic's on, we good to go?
We on
See,
the
y'all-
air.
Look at Ryan. Look at this man. Look at
I'm
this, man.
tearing up the place,
Look at this.
but that's all right.
All right.
There you go, we're good to go.
Y'all good?
Yeah.
That's it.
Why don't you do this? That one ain't going with that, Raheem. Why don't you take this one, and I'll take that one. I'll give you the head.
We'll get ahead here, we got a call
You
too.
be in charge.
I said, now, you know, Joaquin, you keep
Say it
messing up
again?
my
We have
hair.
a call.
Oh, okay. Caller, go ahead. What's your name and where you calling from?
Well, you know what? You all are having such a wonderful time.
Oh.
Here's Mrs. LaPorte. This is Pastor Richard Barnett calling in about the Private Trinity Awards. How are you all doing tonight?
Awesome.
Oh, we're doing great.
He is the voice of the nonprofit Trinity Awards.
I'm nice. Calling all the way on vacay in Florida. So let me call it tonight.
Oh.
I won't be staying on the whole time, but just wanted to
Okay.
do a shout out.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. We appreciate it and enjoy.
Nothing to it but to do it. God bless everybody.
So, Richard, you excited? Wait a minute. No, you ain't gonna just call into the show and just,
Right.
wait a minute. You told me you're on vacation. You done called up here twice. This ain't that type of show. I know you thought it was like low key and, no, this ain't that type of show. Let me tell you, Richard called an hour ago because,
Come on.
what we did was we had a little snafu, and he was really working on being punctual.
Yeah.
So he was punctual, he called, and I answered the phone the first time. I was like, it might be, I don't know if it's a bill collector. Who calling up here this time of night on this phone? So when we got him on the line, he was asking, he says, is Linda Brooks Horton there? And I was like, not yet. No, Raheem asked my producer, he's talking about this for you. I said, oh no, I know it's not no bill collector. Calling me up here on my show. But it was Richard, so you excited about the show next month?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited because, like I say, been part of it, conception with Mrs. Horton and her wonderful committee, and every year it gets greater and greater and greater. This is the 7th year, and we know 7 is completion, and I'm very excited about the venue, very excited about those that are going to be entertaining, and I think this is going to be one of the greatest ones of 2018. I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Yes.
I would have to agree because I'm gonna be a part of it.
Yes.
Well, that's it.
That's it. So everybody get ready.
No, I'm joking, but yeah, I am very excited. I think I've read through, all of the literature and seen all of the different, previous guests.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just super exciting to be, tied in with some people that are doing things, great in the community for what we're doing and just supporting the community. Because a lot of times we give lip service to that, so it's
That's
really
right.
good to
That's
see,
right.
Sandy and Linda doing, great things in the neighborhood.
She is, and I always have to tell us, and I always say, not told you all, but just say, I'm thankful that it was placed in her, and she always says, it's a team. I say, I understood, but you are the spearhead. Thank God that once He placed it in your heart, then you explain to people what this is going to be all about. And as I say, I just encourage everybody that can to come out on August 26th because, the Oscars are good, the Tonys, but I believe this is even better. Why? Because these are people that are in the community making a difference, and that's powerful.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Richard, well, we appreciate you definitely calling into the show, and look forward to seeing you and hearing you at the Trinity Awards this year. So we're going to turn it over now. I'm going to get into this interview with Ms. Horton and let her tell us her story. We're going to hear it from, like you said, from the tip of the spear.
Come on.
The person who was the Genesis. So we're going to go to the book of Genesis
All right now.
real quick and
Break it down and make it.
So we're gonna do that. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Daily Bread Radio Show, and thank you for coming on, and thank you for coming to share your vision with us. Because I know before it actually came to fruition, it had to be something that was in your mind. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much to Richard for calling in all the way from Florida on his vacay. We appreciate
Come
you.
on.
All right. And Wakeem, we appreciate you having us on the show.
Oh, definitely.
We are just excited about being here. We've been all geared up, and now that we're here, we're nervous.
I'll tell you, we don't play on the Daily Bread Radio Show. It's real, but just relax. There ain't nothing to be nervous about.
Yes.
That guy there, he'll make you think you ain't no need.
That's it. Well, see, I'm used to being behind the scenes, so.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes, and Sandy's the one that's all in the front line, and she helps makes things happen.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yes,
That's
yes,
why we call it a super producer.
That's right. But no, thank you for having us on. We
Oh, yes,
truly are
definitely.
happy and excited. Yes,
Definitely.
yes. So how things got started? Well, I've been in the nonprofit sector, helping individuals start a nonprofit and help them obtain their 501c3 for a better part of about 30 years. So started, when I was about 2. But
So don't be trying to do that. Don't be trying to do the math, right? So people quick to do that.
Yeah,
Oh, goodness. You must be.
There you go. That's
Carry
right.
forward.
That's exactly how old I am. Yes.
Okay.
But I realized that, grassroots folks, individuals that, have been given a God mandate mission to help other people, and they do everything they can to, make a positive difference in the community. They work on a shoestring budget, they give their all, and don't expect anything in return. And it's like, what else can I do? Because they give their all in helping others, knowing that even in their own homes, they have struggles.
Right.
But they put their own needs aside, and they're out there in the community helping others. So it was like, Lord, what else can I do to help these individuals, these grassroots nonprofits? And it was like, they need to be recognized. The unsung heroes of our community, they need to be recognized.
Wow.
They do what they do without expecting anything in return. But I always believe, give the flowers to those that deserve it whilst they can smell it.
Wow.
And it encourages them to let them know, hey, someone realizes what I'm doing. And yes, let me keep doing what I'm doing, because someone is depending upon what they do.
That's-
Someone is,
Oh,
yes.
definitely.
Mhm.
And that's just that confirmation that we talk about a lot,
Yeah.
because, like, to your point, as people are doing things and they're being selfless,
Mhm.
you know, even when you're being selfless, sometimes when you have those quiet moments, you're thinking to yourself, like, is anyone watching, right? Am I really being appreciated?
Mhm.
So for something like to be recognized in this type of platform, I'm sure that has to be amazing.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some of the highlights of the show from like previous years, or some of the things that have really brought you joy about the show?
One of the things that really gives me pleasure is when I hear a small nonprofit organization, an executive director or a director come and said to me that they felt like giving up because finances are low, there's not enough volunteers to go around to help, so they felt like packing things up. But when they were called to say they were nominated, now they didn't win, they were just nominated. They
Wow.
thought, oh my goodness, someone sees what I'm doing and they appreciate it. Because basically the nominations go where someone in their community, someone that they've worked with, would submit a nomination on their behalf.
Okay.
So they didn't know they were nominated. Most volunteers, most small nonprofits don't know that they're nominated. So someone had taken the time out to say, you made an impact in my life. And that encouraged them to say, let's keep on keeping on.
Well, that's powerful. Now that is really powerful. So kind of walk us through the process. So I know you said that people are nominated. What's the nomination time? Are we still in that time frame? Is it still time for us to, nominate some people to see if they could be recognized?
No, that time has passed. Nomination period usually is in the beginning of February to the end of March, and then
Okay.
around that period of time, then the finalists are selected from the nominations. This year we had over 200 nominations.
Wow.
Yes, and it is growing, and so it makes it extremely difficult to narrow finalists down, and it's not narrowing down who's better than the next.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that. If we had the resources, we would extend the reach, and we'd be able to include more finalists. But it's just a matter of, number one, once they've been selected as a finalist, meaning people have spoken about them, highly recommended them, then we will make that selection. There are some who don't call us back or respond to the email, so they get dropped off.
Right, we have to move on, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have to move on, though.
Yes, so
It's just business.
so we just encourage, when someone has taken the time out to nominate you, respond.
Yeah.
Because we want to take your nonprofit to another level. We want to take what you do as a volunteer to the next level and give you more exposure, just to say, keep up the great work. So,
Wow,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
One thing this year, I've been with them about 3-4 years. I think it's my third or
Mhm.
fourth year.
Fourth year.
And I just love what she's doing. But this year, as Linda said, the number of nominees increased. And you have to go through that list of nominees and narrow it down, because there's only 14 categories. And there's usually anywhere from 3 to 5 finalists in each category. So you're looking at 200 to 300 nominees and having to go through those nominees.
And get down to
And
like
the-
60 people.
Right, and the
Right.
exciting thing this year, because when I first started, it was really localized in the metro Atlanta area. This year, we had nominees and finalists coming from St. Louis, Missouri, Birmingham, Alabama, North Carolina, you know, so and it's because word of mouth about the Trinity Awards, and I think a big part of it also has to do with the way we've been promoting it. The internet is an awesome thing, you know.
Oh yeah, powerful.
Yeah, being able to promote it and recognize. So I'm just looking forward to the day when we get to the 10th annual, it won't be just regional, you know, it'll be like, you know.
National.
It'll be national, right?
Yeah.
But that's the only thing, it will be. It will be national because right now this is just, it's like the growing season.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like when you go from a small child to a little kid to now a teenager, then to your point, when you get to the 10th annual or the 20th annual or the 25th anniversary show, I mean, who knows how big it can grow.
Oh wow, the 25th anniversary, I could do the
Exactly.
moonwalk like Michael Jackson. Hey, we have to celebrate.
That's it. Oh, yes.
So with the different categories, tell us about the different categories.
Yes, the type of categories we have is like the charitable awards, the educational, also literacy. We also have ministry award, and some of our volunteer categories are for like teens, adults.
That was the one that got my attention.
Yes, young
The
adults.
young adult
And the
teenage.
adults, and then lifetime for those who are seniors, yeah.
Wow.
Because they spend a lifetime out there volunteering their services. So
Wow.
we have a category for everyone.
Yeah, because as I was going through the literature, like previous winners was a young lady that was like 12 years old that started an
Her
organization
own nonprofit organization.
at 12.
Yes.
That is powerful.
I tell you, and they're out there in the community. No one takes time to recognize her. Or
Wow.
to pat them on the back saying, hey, you're making a great impact.
Right.
Yes,
And when I was doing the
yes.
research, you could tell she was really emotional because the picture you all took of her, she was already crying, but you could see she was trying to still articulate what her nonprofit was, you know, related to, but she was, you know,
Yeah.
visibly emotional about what she was doing. But it at such a young age,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's powerful. So I know when Sandy, you know, she reached out to me and I was like, yeah, I said, that sounds like something just super positive, right? And it's nothing like being involved with people that are doing things that are super positive in the community, and you've seen it grow from, you know, a few people to Sandy's point, like it was, you know, local and regional, and now it's starting to get like Eastern, and now we're going national, and then
Yeah.
before you know it, it'll probably be international.
That's right.
Right?
That's
We ready?
That's
So-
it. So any network television stations out there, we're ready.
What we gotta do?
That's it, we're ready.
So you ready for the network, right?
That's right.
But we have to do our own network, because, I mean, you brought up a very key point in the way technology is now. And Sandy's been, you know, really assisting me with that, because anytime that she brings one of her guests onto my show, she always does a little promo card and everything. And
Yeah.
But the power of the internet and the power of things like, you know, Facebook Live, YouTube,
Yes.
and when you take those type of events and then you let them replay and get them out to the world, that's powerful.
Yes.
So you
yes.
really, in a sense, can almost have your own network, in a sense, so that way you capture the moment, and then you are able to invite people from all over the internet to
Yes.
see
Yes.
what good you're doing, you know, in the Atlanta area from a base standpoint. But I mean, right now it's like around the world, because people always love when we're doing things that are helping other people. Right? People
Yes.
always love to, you know, see that, feel it, because it's emotional and it's genuine.
Yes.
So, as far as the award show goes, what kind of things or what type of support do you need from the listening audience, or what things do you want people to know about the Trinity Awards?
Well, I'll let Sandy share as well on this, but one of the things that is very prominent amongst small nonprofit organizations, and the Nonprofit Trinity Awards is one of those. One of our major challenges is naturally support, financial support. Because we're not a mainstream nonprofit, finding sponsors, financial sponsors, is a challenge. But we hope that if there's anyone out there in the listening audience that wants to support a worthy cause of recognizing and honoring small nonprofits and volunteers for what they do within the local community, supporting the unsung heroes of the community. We are a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, and your donation is truly welcome. Most of the 90% of the our budget is personal finances. So we are ready to launch out and seek corporate sponsors.
Okay. Sandy?
One thing I like for people to understand is, most of the time when you hear about nonprofits, people automatically think of, Red Cross, Goodwill,
Ranchadan. Right.
and those, organizations with deep pockets.
Yeah.
Right.
Deep pockets, and we know about them, but in the community, in the everyday community that's touching everybody's lives on a daily basis, these are the little mom and pop nonprofits that we'll try to promote and that we'll recognize it, because they're the ones, when you sit back and say, we need to have something for these kids to do during the summer, and this is the organization that puts together the baseball or the STEM program or the dance program or whatever, or when you say the seniors need transportation to get to their doctor's appointment or get their meals or have somebody to come in. It's these grassroots, everyday mom and pop organizations that's doing this. And like Linda said, they're doing this out of their pockets.
Right.
I run into nonprofit organizations that's feeding people every week. And they're feeding people out their pocket. They go home, cook a big pot of beans or whatever, make a plate and carry out and feed these people, that's in need. And they do it unselfishly and get very little recognition for it.
Absolutely.
So when you see them with the little kids out at the stop sign at the intersection saying we're trying to raise money for baseball uniforms, or we're trying to raise money to go on a field trip, reach in your pocket and put that dollar out there, put $10 out there,
Right.
and support them. Because otherwise, you're sitting down and you're looking at the news and you're saying, if somebody had did something, these little
Right.
kids wouldn't, use somebody and you can do something.
Yeah.
And it's important that, we remember and we do it. And
Exactly.
plus, you feel good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one of the tenets of the Daily Bread Radio Show, which is the biggest one, which is to get to the point where you can give and be a blessing to someone. It doesn't have to be a lot, because like you said, you can give $1, but just think about it, if everybody gave $1, every car that passed by, as opposed to, I ain't on it, but you got $1 in your ashtray.
Right.
Or you gonna go down to Starbucks and spend $7 on some coffee
Exactly.
that you don't need, or you going somewhere else and just like, oh, I'll just, spend $2 or $3, ain't a big deal. But to give and being able to give, without looking for something in return, it's like, that's the greatest feeling, especially when you see it in action. Like you said, you give to, kid organization or someone trying to, feed the homeless. And sometimes it don't have to be just giving monetarily too. It can
Exactly.
also be volunteering.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
One thing that I've found out in the few years that I've been working with the organization is that I've talked to some of the nonprofits that were nominated, and they said that because of that recognition, that they have picked up volunteers. It's people that didn't even know that they were a nonprofit, didn't even know that they did what they were doing. I remember last year after the awards, and this lady, she came up to me and she hugged me, and she said, I just really want to thank you guys. She said, because just tonight, I've had 3 people come up to me and say they want to be in touch with me next week so they can volunteer with my program. She said, and I'm in desperate need of volunteers. So it's that kind of thing, like you said, it's not just always giving money, giving of your time.
Right.
Giving of your, you can have knowledge that you can pass
Yeah.
pass along.
Oh, definitely.
if you know science and you know kids need to know science, you know, go work with them. They'll
That's right.
still, you know, because that's what's happening right now. You need to get us into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's a unintentional byproduct of
Yes.
doing good.
Yes.
Like you thinking one thing, like, hey, I'm gonna do the awards, and this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna recognize.
Mhm.
But then there's another part that we never really intend,
Mhm.
or we didn't plan for, but that's unintentional benefit. It's a blessing, you know, because now you're getting exposure,
Yes.
and other people like, you know what, I need to volunteer.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, because everybody, you know, everybody, when you talk to people, they say, oh, I'm busy, but when you think about it, if you ask somebody to write down all of the things that they've done with their time, a lot of times it's frivolous,
Exactly.
right? We spend a lot of time doing things where we're like, you know what, I could have went down and, you know, helped some of those kids, like you said,
Right.
teach science, math,
Mhm.
things of that nature. Or you could have, you know, taught them whatever your craft is, or your
Yes.
gifting,
Yes.
right? Because we was joking before the show, and I was talking to Linda about my grandson. I was like, I'm not gonna do all of that youth sports and all of that, and I'm not gonna
Right.
digress, but
Right.
I'm like, we need to start creating some, you know, programming our own kids.
There you go.
And stop letting YouTube program them and other shows program them. We program ourselves, you know, program our own kids, so. But, I'm super excited. So how can people contact the Trinity Awards? So maybe they couldn't get involved this year, maybe you want them to be involved. Where can they find information about the Trinity Awards, or how can they contact you?
They can go to our website, www.nonprofittrinityawards.org.
Okay.
They can find us on Facebook, Nonprofit Trinity Award on Facebook. They can find us on Twitter, on
Yeah, you see that
Instagram.
Twitter? I've been playing with my. I was hoping that came up. Yeah, Twitter's my new friend. I'm just tweeting out things. I'm like, okay, I like that too. Yeah. Here's a retweet. Like, yeah, okay. So I saw that. I saw that.
So
Okay.
yeah, we're on all the social media, the website, and then plus word of mouth. And I just want to throw this in. We were talking about what it does for the nonprofit. What I'm also finding out is that for our performers and for our presenters, it's a big thing for them also. We have performers that come in, and these are people who never really performed in front of an audience before. They may be trying to get,
Right.
just recognition, and they come and they perform on our stage for our awards, and people are there and they're seeing it.
Yeah.
And now they're like, I want them to come. How do I get in touch with this person? How do I get in touch with that person? And the same thing for the presenters. We try to get presenters. We have a state senator and representatives and things, but we also try to get the everyday people also that's out here doing things. Joaquin.
Oh. DDD.
He was waiting.
Oh, wait, I'm like,
He was
hey.
waiting. He
I
was
like,
waiting.
get to the
Waiting.
punchline. I'm like, right in front of you.
Like Joaquin.
Yes, he's the man this year.
Oh, my goodness.
He's the
Oh,
man this
and-
year. Yes.
I'm at that. And.
That's right.
Yeah, so you can find us on social media and stuff. And we are really growing and just really excited to just be doing what we're doing and have this opportunity. We've grown so much. We've changed venues
Yes.
Wow.
this year. Last few years we were in DeKalb County at the Port of Sanford. And this year, for the first time, we're going to the Morehouse campus, the Ray Charles Performing Arts Center.
Yes.
So we're
Yeah,
like,
literally,
yeah. And it's a really good, we have a, there's a red carpet, so people can be able to get glammed up and walk the red carpet and have their hors d'oeuvres and their little imitation champagne
That's
and
right.
sparkling cider, so we can't get anybody.
That's right.
But I mean, but it's exciting. People come, they put on their, it makes them feel good to come
Right.
and walk down. I've had people contacting me.
Yeah.
I have to have a tux, right? Tell my wife I have to have a tux. And
You
I'm
hear that
like,
time? You tell my
Yeah,
wife,
that's
I gotta have a tux.
So yeah, it's I'm really excited about
Yeah, I'm
this year.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited. I'm ready.
Yes.
And you know, the thing about that, again, it's a blessing for everybody that's involved because you don't know what's gonna come out of it, right? And that's the presenters and the people that are involved with putting it on as well. They're giving up their time, but every time that you do something and you're involved with something of this magnitude, you always gonna take something away. You're always gonna get your, like you said, your opportunity for somebody else to see you, you know, showcase whatever it is, maybe your presentation skills or how articulate you are or what have you. Somebody's out in the audience and like, oh, well, I'm the producer of the, you know, Steve Harvey show, and I just happen to be here because my niece is gonna be performing, what have you. So I love to take those type of opportunities and just, you know, make sure that we make the most of it.
And then we had the people behind the scene. This year we had students from, well, for the past 2 years, we've had students from Atlanta Tech to help us with the video presentation for the nominees. They'll be helping us on the red carpet. We get students from Georgia Perimeter to come in, and they volunteer. They are hostesses and host and working with the, you know, behind the scenes.
Right, to make things
Yeah,
go.
get the students that's in the beauty colleges to come in, and they're the glam squad. So we tell the people, hey, come on in. You know, we got a glam squad for you. They'll be here to do hair and makeup.
Hair and
for you.
makeup.
Yeah, you know, put a little dusting on you so you're not shy under the light. You know, we have people that's coming in and hosting on the red carpet so that when people come on the, you know, so it's an opportunity for people to come, you know, not just for the organizations that's being recognized, but there are so many people that's being able to have an opportunity to come out and be a part of something.
Right.
And at the same time, be able to add to their own portfolio.
Okay. So I definitely want to, you know, thank you all for coming out. And before we close, how can people come if they want to come and be part of the artist? What do they need to do? Are they tickets to purchase, or can you tell our listening audience about that?
Yes, they just need to go online, the nonprofit Trinity Awards.
Okay.
.org, and click the ticket link, and tickets are available.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's make this a sellout. Let's pack it out.
Yes.
And make sure that everything is going to be appropriate. Everything is going to, you know, go the right way. And definitely want to thank you all for coming out because you've added some, I guess you would say, flavor to the Daily Bread Radio Show. Y'all don't look at Linda now. She's loose now.
That's right.
She came in there.
There you go.
I was like, you must be in the military. Like a marching in here. Now she
I'm
loose,
ready
dance,
now.
dance.
She like, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
ready now,
So we
ready
still
now.
have some time. So, you know,
Yeah.
even leading up to the show, if you all, you have an open invitation if you want to come back, promote some
Awesome.
more.
Yeah.
We're here for you. We're definitely going to
Appreciate
make sure
it.
that we support you in everything that you're doing. If it's anything that the Daily Bread Radio Show can do, definitely reach out to us, DKM Radio. Let us know. We have other shows and other platforms, other times we can get you, you know, plugged into those so that way other audiences can become aware of all of the good that you're doing, Linda, and your vision and your dreams and how everything is coming to fruition. So with that, I know we ran over a couple of minutes. I want to, again, thank the listening audience. I appreciate you all for joining, and want to make sure that you stay tuned in next week. We have another special guest coming next week, Charmaine Moss.
Right.
Next week on August the 2nd.
Real Women Atlanta Magazine.
With Real Women Atlanta Magazine. She's going to be right here, so make sure that you tune in. Tell someone, because we're going to, you know, keep doing good and keep showcasing all of the Black excellence that we're doing in our communities in and around Atlanta and throughout. And I guess I got to say it, and Snellville. And it's Hey, but y'all have a beautiful evening. Thank you all again for
Thank
coming.
you, Joaquin, for
Thank you
having
all
us.
listening audience. Thank everybody that's on, and we'll see you all next week.
And don't forget to come out and support us.
Oh, definitely come out.
And that's August 26th.
Oh, yeah, I like that, huh?